Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Truck People, written by XR171. It was an experiment designed to test the peace between our nations. It was a world rich in resources where our borders met. The soil was nurturing, and below that the bedrock held many valuable and needed ores. We were peaceful in our coexistence, but little else. We created no trouble towards the humans and their allied races. They returned that favor to us, yet we did not mix. My family and I, returning to our settlement after a day in town to purchase supplies and enjoy a few simple luxuries, like a steam spa. We were in the wild, as we called it. The road was exposed and hardened soil. Most colonists from both sides used wheeled vehicles for their easiest maintenance over hover tech. My family was no exception. Children, keep an eye out for the hornbucks. It's their mating season, and I don't know about you, but your mother is enough for me, I stated. I had meant to purchase brighter forward lights for our vehicle, but in my relaxation from the steam, it had lapsed from my thoughts. Behave right. Kids, keep an eye out, but don't worry, hornbucks avoid roads, my spouse never announced as she playfully struck my shoulder. We still had a couple of hours until we reached the settlement of our farm. I was looking forward to the first harvest. Julep trees grew very well here and provided vital nutrients back into the soil. After this harvest, I planned on shifting to my land in Sinapro. Father, stop, my daughter yelled. A hornbuck had ran in front of us, and I swerved to avoid it, and we landed forward first into a dry creek bed. Is everyone okay? I asked. I'm okay, my spouse answered. Me too, my daughter replied. Me three, my son stated. We got out to inspect the damage. The vehicle was intact, but the rear drive wheels were off the ground. We were stuck. I grabbed our communication device, and no satellites were in orbit. Well, none of ours. I could call out on a Terran satellite, but didn't want to risk any trouble. Well, we're stuck until we can call for help. It's late, so children can go to sleep. We'll make a bundle for you two, I explained. Nara and I took a couple of blankets out of the cargo compartment and made a simple sleeping bundle for the children. I told them a story of my survival test when I was at the age of adulthood. How I had been sent into the forest with just a knife and a flint, and that I had to survive, and we would be fine. Suddenly, I heard a loud report of a slug thrower. The kids were wide awake again. Fear not, it is far away. Now go to sleep. Your mother and I will stand watch, I explained. Time passed, and I checked for a signal a few more times. None available, except for Terran. Once the children were fast asleep, Neva and I built a small fire and cuddled up next to each other. Despite being stuck in the wilderness, we felt at peace and secure in the knowledge that we would look back at this with fondness. We discussed routine matters, the status of our crops, both for sale and our consumption, our children's education. Soon we would start survival training for both of them, but mostly we just enjoyed each other's company. Neva was half asleep when I heard the vehicle approach us. The engine had more of a rumble to the high-pitched whine of our own. She got up as I got up to get their attention. I couldn't make out much due to their lights, but I was confident they would see me waving my limbs. They came to a stop at a safe distance from me. Are you okay? They asked as they exited. I recognized their language instantly. Terran English. I felt my blood pressure drop. My family was out here alone with no way to call for help. Thinking fast, I came up with a plan. In my best English, I answered them. Yes, I'm alone and lost. I was walking back to my family settlement, I answered, hoping my spouse would take the hint. Which way is it, and how far? We'd be happy to help. It can be dangerous to be alone out here, one of them answered in Creth. Almost 2 hours due east by vehicle, I responded. Dad, there's a car stuck over here. More Creth, a younger Terran shouted. Please, don't hurt us. We won't. You have the bond of our word, the old Terran said. What happened? A hornbuck came out in front of us. A large male. I swerved to miss it, I replied. Did it have 4 primary antlers? The older one asked. Yes, You saw it?
Yep.
You may have heard the shot. My son and I were out hunting. But let's take a look at your car, he suggested.
Back wheels are off the ground. No other apparent damage. I reckon that we could easily pull them out,
The younger Terran, maybe a human, stated. I was amazed and grateful that they were speaking to each other in Creth. It did a lot to reduce my fear. Your car, your call. I can use my truck's chain to pull you out. Might damage your car a tad, or you can just use our comm to call for help, and we'll be happy to wait with you, the older one explained. I could feel myself becoming less afraid.
If you're willing, I would appreciate your assistance with recovery. Any body damage we can repair later,
I answered, and I saw both of them flash their teeth slightly in what we recognized as a smile. Gary, find an anchor point or two. I'll bring the trunk over. I'm afraid I don't know your name yet. Mine's Mark, and this is my son, Gary. If I could have you stand here and make sure that I don't end up flipped over, I'd appreciate it, he stated and pointed to the bank of the creek bed.
My name is Royat. This is my spouse, Neva, and my children, Tuck and Krev, are over there sleeping,
I replied as I walked over to the place Mark had pointed at. He signaled for Mark to stop before he got too close. He then retrieved 2 sets of chains from a box mounted across the vehicle's open cargo area. I noticed Gary grabbed one and hooked both ends of the tow points on my vehicle. He then grabbed another from his father and hooked it in front of the vehicle, and then to the chain. Right, if you'll make sure your family stay clear, then I'll need you in the driver's seat. I'll start pulling you out. When your wheels are on the ground, again, engage in reverse slowly. Gary will be standing outside watching everything and yelling instructions as needed. Mark explained to us. Neva and I took the children in their bundle off to the side and stayed with them. They never woke up. I activated the motors and placed it in low reverse.
Dad, start. Reuters, be ready,
Gary yelled. I heard the engine of the Mark's vehicle emit a low roar and felt the rear of mine lower one move backwards. I felt a small jolt as it impacted the soil.
Right, back up slowly,
he yelled. Between Mark's efforts and my own, within seconds, we were all back on the road. I shot my vehicle off and got out.
Thank you both so much. My family and I are in your debt,
I exclaimed, bowing, my center of mass. No worries at all, just trying to be good neighbors. Besides, we live for the stuff. You guys live on that farm in the shadow of the mountain east of here, right? He asked.
Yes. We're going through the trees,
I answered.
Told you they were raising those trees, Dad,
Gary interjected. So they are. Right. We live about 10 kilometers from you. You owe us nothing. Odd as it may seem, this is something we enjoy, Mark stated.
Still, thank you. I must admit I was afraid at first. There's quite a bit of history between us,
I admitted. No, there is not much history between our families. At least not yet, I hope. The history you speak of is between governments. Governments we came here to get away from. To make a new beginning and hopefully new friends, Mark stated.
You have made friends today, Mark and Gary. I'm also impressed with your knowledge of our language. You're quite fluent,
Neva said as she walked up to us.
The children are asleep in the back seat. They never woke up.
Some things never change. When Gary was younger, I swore nothing could wake him up. Also, it was a requirement to settle here. Learning your language, that is. Hard to settle a world with people when you can't say hi to each other. I noticed Gary. He stored the chains back in the box they came from. Gary gave his father a knowing look.
Barbecue?
Gary asked, motioning towards us. I couldn't understand that word. I assumed that he was referring to a debt. Great ideas, son. Right, in a couple of days we're going to cook and eat the horned buck Gary shot. We would be honored to have your family over as our guests. We'd love to introduce you to some Appalachian and Earth foods.
I was honored by this. I couldn't speak. It would be our honor. Is there anything you need us to supply?
Neva asked. We've never had Creth food. We'd love to try it if you're okay with that, Mark answered.
We have a few dishes that we can make I think you'll enjoy.
Neva replied.
Yes. Our day of renewal is approaching, a holiday in which we commit to new beginnings and put the past aside. I think this would be a great dedication of it, I stated.
I'll have to research this holiday. I hope the celebration with beer is appropriate.
With that, Mark gave us the coordinates of his family's farm and a way to reach us over both Terran and Crest networks.
As they left and I got back in the driver's seat, I thought to myself, perhaps war truly can end. End of story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters: Bushmaster 117, Casper Arnholtz, Draxoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.